Hi, my name is David. I'm here with Odd Frontier Games. I'm going to talk to you about my game, Odd Frontier TCG, or Odd Frontier Trading Card Game. So, my game is very similar to Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay, or Pokemon, because it's got different creatures in it. And the creatures are based off of different types of animals, right? So you have arthropods, mollusks, fish, Nidaria, which are like coral, and you have one. No, screw it. Yeah, this is you guys are special. So this is a reptile. He's the only reptile in the game. So they're based off of different types of creatures, right? And the gameplay is very similar to Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh. And so in Magic the Gathering, you play lands. You can play one land per turn to, and then tap those lands to produce mana, which can be used to play creatures and spell and magic and whatever and that kind of thing. So in this game, we call them engines, and they're not lands. Most engines are actually creatures. So instead of lands, you have engines, and you crank them. You move them horizontally, just like you would tap them, but you crank them, and you crank engines for energy. Okay, so instead of mana, it's energy, and energy doesn't have any colors like in Magic the Gathering. So in Magic the Gathering, if you have different lands, you have to have the specific lands to play specific colored spells from Magic the Gathering. Okay, in this, it's like freeform. Okay, you can play any. You can basically put any card in any deck, similar to Yu-Gi-Oh. Different type. Different cards are obviously going to be better together in certain combinations, but pretty much you can play any card. You're not going to have like open up a pack of cards and see that you can't play your card. That would suck. So in the archive, which is your deck, you have 36 to 40 cards. You have uh, four of the same card in your archive, and you have 100 health. And the object to win the game is to bring the other player's life to zero, or the first person that can't draw cards anymore. So if your archive is empty and you have to draw a card and you can't, you lose. And that's pretty much the game. The different types of cards in the game are creatures, which are like the most prevalent, artifacts, phenomenons, which are kind of like, if you've ever played Magic the Gathering, it's like similar to an enchantment. It's just the same thing as like an artifact, kind of. It kind of just hangs out there. It's enchantments and artifacts don't have attack and defense like creatures do. Okay, and then you have magic. Okay, magic can it's like it's like an instance. You can use magic anytime that you can use an instant like in Magic the Gathering. So magic is just like your magic type stuff. So creatures, artifacts, and phenomenons all permanents. Okay, that means that they stay on the battlefield. Magic is not a permanent. Okay, so magic cards do not. This is a good one. We'll go over this one. But magic is not a permanent because it doesn't hang out there. You just use it and it goes straight to your graveyard. So, like I said, instead of lands, you play engines. So this is a engine creature. It's a dragonfly, and the thing that's interesting about my game, one of the things, there's a lot of interesting things because Odd Frontier is a pretty odd game. It's pretty oddly fantastic. But this engine you can crank it for energy or you can attack with it. And as you can see, you can banish a card. This means just to take it out of the game. If you have a lot of cards in your graveyard, you can just banish all your cards and make him really powerful. So This guy can do, you know, quite a bit of damage in the late game if you have a lot of cards in your graveyard. So that's the basics of the game. This is an engine. So you're going to be playing. You're going to have about 12 of these in your 36 to 40 card deck. And you know you're going to want to have like 2 or 3 in your starting hand because you want to play um, play one per turn, right? The game is a little quicker than Magic the Gathering. It can wrap up a lot quicker because there's some guys that are really powerful. You only have 100 health, so there's stuff that has like a lot of power. So let's go over the actual cards, like the types. So we're gonna go over arthropods first. So an arthropod is basically like an insect thing, and these guys are good at usually good at artifacts and other type of stuff. Okay. This guy right here is Abracadabra, and so mostly usually creatures are good at like artifacts and stuff. This guy happens to be good at magic, and so this guy, you can only have 2 of them in your archive. He's the only creature like this. And if for every one of these guys you have 2 on the battlefield, it makes Meteorite Strike. And 2 other different cards cheap, and 1 other card cheaper. So this card, if you have, it usually costs, this cost is 7. So if you have one of these guys out, it costs 6 instead. So you can kill all non-arthropods. So that's super powerful right there. So yeah, so that's the basics of the arthropods. Next, I'm going to go on to Nidaria. And Nidaria are like sort of jellyfish and coral, right? So this is going to go over, and this is a Corallosis. With a lot of Nidaria, you're going to be discarding cards. So he's really good. You get him on the battlefield, he only costs 2. He's got a lot of attack, a lot of defense, and he only costs 2. But his battle cry, he cranks right when he gets on the battlefield. So you have to discard a card right away to get him to attack. And once you attack, you crank your creature, so you're going to have to, if you want to block with him next turn, he can't be cranked. And so Nidaria are really good at dealing direct damage. So this is a magic card specifically for Nidaria. So you have to control a Nidaria to play this card, and you deal 15 damage to a target creature. So this is a pretty good, because you can remove creatures pretty easily. Nidaria are probably the best at doing direct damage. A lot of times you can discard cards to deal damage. And I'm going to show you the first Ultra creature. And so this is not the art. Some very small amount of my creatures don't have the art. Most of the art is mine. As you can see, this says placeholder. This is a Core Mecha. It's an Ultra creature, and you can sacrifice 4 Nidarias of different. Well, yeah, you have to banish them, remove them from the game. 4 Nidarias you control of different names, and he's super powerful. He's got 40-20. He's got Airborne, which is sort of like flying for magic, and he can't be Airborne. Can't be blocked by creatures except for creatures that have Airborne and Reach. Okay, Reach is the same. And First Assault is like first strike. He attacks first. So if he attacks first and kills the creature, First Assault attacks first, and so if you attack the creature first and you kill him first, he can't retaliate, right? So you don't take any damage in that combat. So this guy's really good, right? Really can be overpowered. You got to wait 1 turn though, because he gets cranked right when he gets on the battlefield. You got to wait to uncrank him. And he can't block, so he's very offensive. And the other drawback that he does have is that he's a phenomenon and he's an artifact. He's got a lot of types up there. So if you look at these types, he's got a ton of them, right? So that actually means that he's very easily targeted, and fish can target artifacts pretty well. So that's Nidaria. Let's go on to fish. Fish are good at penalizing people for drawing cards, and the tribe that draws the most card is mollusk. And so here they are. So I'm gonna go. This is an artifact here. Have we looked at an artifact? I guess we haven't. This is an artifact. This is a fish artifact, and when anyone can play it. It costs 1, and any player that draws a card other than in their draw step, they have to lose 4 life. So if you're making other people draw, or they're drawing a lot to get an advantage, you can actually punish them a lot for it. But the problem is if you're drawing cards, they'll punish you too. So you got to put this in the right deck. Croaker, you lose 2 life and you destroy target artifact. It's pretty good. It's a engine 2, so you crank him. So you can just put him in your deck. You get a little bit of a penalization, but he destroys target artifact upon entering the battlefield. I mean, she. So pretty good. But you get penalized 2 life, and not everyone's going to have an artifact, but if they have one, you can remove a whole artifact, which is a pretty big deal. Especially if they have an expensive one that they paid like for energy for, and then they had to pay more to equip it, and then you just destroy it. It's a pretty big deal. And this costs and the croaker costs nothing. This is Hippocampus. This is a staple of the fish deck, and he's really cheap for how powerful he can be, because you have 7 cards in your deck at the start, and that's your max hand size. So the more cards that they have, his attack and defense are equal to 10 times the number of cards in the opponent with the most cards. So the more cards that your opponent has, more powerful this guy's going to be. And there's a lot of creatures of the fish tribe that make other people draw and that kind of thing. So you can force people to draw and make him more powerful. So that's a fish. Let's go to, last but definitely not least, the mollusk. And with the mollusks, they're probably the most powerful cards in the game. There's a card specifically to take out mollusks, because it's called Fry Calamari. It's a 4 cost. So there are ways to take them out. So let's go over some of them. So this is the guy on my logo for YouTube. So this is Octopus. He's probably the first. Is he the first creature? Is he the first or the second? I forget. He's pretty darn close to the first. He might not be the first, because I had some other creatures drawn before him. But he's pretty close to the first, and he's like the main creature on my logo, so he's important. He's an octopus, so he's very interesting. You can crank him, and so you can crank him. That ability can be used on your turn or your opponent's turn, and so you can look at the top card of either your deck or your opponent's deck. So you can actually look at your opponent's card and look at it before they look at it and decide whether you want to keep it on the top or put it on the bottom, depending on. So, pretty good card. He's not very powerful for a 3 cost, but his crank ability is pretty good. And you can use it on yourself too. So you can either use it on yourself or the other person to kind of see what their deck is, or see what's going on in your deck. This is Holy Inquisition. It's a phenomenon. Phenomenons are similar to artifacts that kind of just hang out there, unless you equip them. I didn't bring any equipment out, but we'll go over equipment when we go over arthropods. So, this Holy Inquisition, as you can see, whenever someone plays a mollusk, they draw 4 life. So you or your opponent can use this card. And this card combined in this card, the Squigician, can be used to summon a really good card. So the Squigician, you can use his ability. You can pay 2 energy, and then you can show all the mollusks in your hand. For every mollusk you show, he gets +5 attack. Okay, so this guy But to show you something awesome, so these two guys, the Squigician can ultra evolve or whatever. His ultra form is the Grand Squigician. I messed it up. I already told you. Here it is. So this basically, he's got a he's like a giant pope. So he's pretty badass. He likes to mess things up. So yeah, so he's like pretty much he's one of the staples in the game. He's the most powerful. Next to Blast Raptor. You can pay 2 cards and you can reveal all the mollusks in your hand. And for every card you reveal, he gets +10 attack, and he gets piercing. So if someone blocks, they don't. If you do more damage than what their defense is, then the rest of the damage trickles down to the player. Right? If the creature is blocking and they only have 20 defense and you're doing 30 attack, the rest, the other 10, the remaining 10 will actually hit your opponent, other than just getting wasted. So he's pretty good. Like I showed you before, Blast Raptor. Okay, he's super crazy. He's a 6 cost, 520, ridiculous, and when he wounds target player, that means when he directly deals damage to the player, he destroys non-engine creature. So that's pretty crazy. So he destroys any creature that's not non-engine. So if he's dealing damage, if he's dealing damage to your opponent, they're not going to last very long, because you're going to be dealing 50 damage to them, and you're also going to be, destroying their creatures. So that is the basics of Odd Frontier trading card game, and I'm gonna go over more as we go. And the next video, I'm probably going to talk about arthropods and what makes arthropods good. So thanks for checking in.